What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm going to talk about the difference between a premium wedge, one that is obviously going to be worth about £150, probably a bit more than that, and then just talking about what the difference is between that and a wedge that is budget, that is 50, that is £60. So today I've got an example of each category. I've got the brand new TaylorMade Milled Grind 3. If you haven't seen my review of it, check it out. Probably the best wedge I've tried this year and well, maybe ever. And I'm putting it up against the MacGregor V-Foil Speed Wedge. Now you may not have heard of this MacGregor wedge, but it's actually very, very popular amongst retailers because of its price. So I'll put the MacGregor price right here and I'll put the TaylorMade price right here. So you can see there, good triple the amount for the TaylorMade wedge. But why is this? What are you going to be expecting if you buy the TaylorMade wedge? What's going to be better? Well, I'm here to talk about that today, and I'm going to kind of narrow it down to a few parts: looks, performance, and feel, and also talk about the parts of the game that you use for a wedge. So looks-wise, I mean, let's be honest, the TaylorMade looks a bit nicer, but when we compare them both together, they both have that black finish. TaylorMade has some more options with that new satin finish, but just from face on, they both look quite similar as a wedge. You can tell that MacGregor probably is a little bit cheaper just by the finish, but significantly cheaper, maybe not. When you look down at address of both, the main thing you can notice here is that the MacGregor has a much thicker top line, is more of a compact head, perhaps maybe not as pleasing for that regular player, but is that a negative? Well, I don't think so, because the people who are going to be purchasing a budget wedge, a wedge that is a little bit cheaper, are going to be those people who probably don't want to shell out a good £1,000, £2,000 on a set of clubs and want a little bit more help. They probably won't be the best player in the world, just getting into the game, and need a little bit of help. The MacGregor having more offset, especially by the heel as well, kind of leans towards that, makes it probably a little bit easier to hit. But apart from that, there's not too much difference. They're both black finishes, as I said, both have quite nice grips, both very tacky. But if I pick these both up just from face on, if I was not a regular golfer, not in this job, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference that much. Now, feel is, I think, the most important part of a wedge, and that is the main difference here between these two wedges, the premium and budget wedge. You're not going to have as nice of a feel with the budget wedge. That's just being as blunt as possible. Does that mean that this MacGregor wedge is going to feel bad? No, not at all. It just means it's not going to feel as good as this. But you're not going to hit the MacGregor wedge and it's going to be unpleasant. It's just going to be a little bit more clicky, a little bit less smooth and buttery, and you'd prefer hitting the TaylorMade wedge. But does the feel equate to the performance? Well, that's quite a difficult question, because if you don't like how it feels, that means you probably mentally won't play it very well. Everyone knows this. If you have a club in your bag and you don't like it, you're not going to put your best swing on it. This MacGregor wedge still feels very good, so I don't think anyone should really have that. And if I'm comparing them directly, TaylorMade is a 9 out of 10 and the MacGregor is probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So it's still a wedge that I could easily use on feel alone, but there is a significant difference. Now, performance is when it gets really into the stats, into the parts of the game that you use your wedges for. So let's talk about it. From these little pitch shots, you can see I've got the green behind me right here. From these little pitch shots here, what are you going to be expecting in terms of performance? Well, if you're a decent player and you're going to put a consistent stroke on it every single time, consistent swing on it every single time, it's going to be fine. You're going to get the same performance as the TaylorMade wedge. The one thing that you may not get though is the same response off the actual grooves of the club face. A lot of premium wedges really push that spin. You've got the TaylorMade MG3 with those micro rib grooves, and they say it's going to spin anywhere, especially from the pitch and chip shots, which is exactly the case. With the MacGregor wedge, you're not going to get that. You may get that when you first buy it because it's a brand new club face with got brand new grooves, but over time, you're not going to get that at all. It's going to be just something whereby whatever ball you use, you're going to chip it and it's going to roll on. Whereas with the TaylorMade MG3, it's going to spin for quite a long time. The same applies to bunkers as well. The MG3, you'll get some response, you'll get some feedback out of a bunker whereby you're going to hit it, it will probably check on the first bounce, then run on. With this MacGregor wedge, it's going to feel great, and I've used it out of the bunker, it performs very, very well, but it's just going to run on, which isn't a problem, and if you guys are aware of that, you'll hit some good shots. When you move back now towards those pitch shots and those full shots, this is where it gets a bit more of a wider gap, because as I mentioned, is that spin. Now I feel that the spin of the MG3, you're consistently getting the same amount time after time after time, wherever you hit it on the club face. If you hit it slightly out of the heel, slightly out of the toe, you're still going to get a pretty good dispersion rate. You're going to get pretty close to the hole if you've got a decent swing, and you'll probably get a little bit of zip back, especially for those full shots. With the MacGregor, with it being a little bit cheaper, what's going to happen is, although it does look like it has more offset and it would lead to being more forgiving, when you do hit it a little bit offline in terms of where you're striking it, out of the heel and out of the toe, you'll get some diminishing results because being cheaper, it doesn't have the same technology to really optimize that CG and get the same strike or the same results wherever you hit it on the club face. Is that a significant impact? Not really, because wherever you're going to be hitting it, you're still going to get some forgiveness, but just not as much as those premium clubs. You won't get that much spin as well, but being a full shot, hitting a 56 or 52, you're still going to get something. Depending on the course you play, you still could get some stop. I got it a little bit here at Manny's Heath in the short game area, but not as much as the MG3. Now, when you're in the rough, there's not too much difference, if I'm being honest. The MacGregor, I'll go back to the feel. You do have some optimal feel with the TaylorMade out of the rough. The MacGregor, not as much. With those micro rib grooves, you do get a little bit of response, whereas the MacGregor, that water really holds up in the rough and really does get along this club face. So it's just gonna roll wherever you're playing. None of these are a negative for the MacGregor. It's just, if you guys are aware as to what you're buying, you're gonna hit decent shots. One big thing as well is the durability of these wedges. The MacGregor wedge won't last as long. It's going to wear down, especially with that black finish. I do find that black finish quite an interesting choice because it will wear quite significantly over time. With the milled grind 3 wedge, with this metallic finish, it will wear as well, it will rust, but you could have this in the bag for a good 4 or 5 years. With the MacGregor, I probably wouldn't want this in the bag for more than a few years, just because I'd be a bit wary as to the performance diminishing. If you guys want to go check out this MacGregor wedge, I'll put a link in the description for it. I absolutely love the TaylorMade MG3 Wedge. It's my favorite wedge of 2021, so I'll always side with this. But if you guys don't want to splash the cash, the MacGregor is a pretty good alternative. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video today. Let me know what you guys think of this MacGregor wedge, because I think it's a really interesting comparison from a budget to premium. I think we all know there is going to be a difference, but if you guys have used a budget wedge and MacGregor wedge, let me know. Let me know if you've transitioned to a more premium wedge and how you've got on with either. If you guys are new to the GolfMagic YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button down below to keep up to date with all of our videos, from comparisons, reviews, challenges, you name it, we've got it to keep you guys entertained for all of 2021. Until next time, I will see you guys later.